So, hello and welcome back yet again to Around the World in 80 Days. Took a couple days off reading it. Don't entirely remember everything that was happening, except we did rejoin Passepartout, who seems to be in slightly dire straits, and we left with Passepartout making some really racist observations about the people that he saw. So I guess we're going to see what's going to happen next. I hope everybody is doing good. I hope you guys are all, if you celebrate Thanksgiving, which is coming this week, for my American friends, I hope that you are ready for that. I have fantastic news in that we got a stove, so I can actually do Thanksgiving. Because, not going to lie, there was really no way I was going to be able to cook a turkey in a toaster oven or make all the sides on one single burner. But I got that, so probably gonna make a turkey this week. I just now realized I don't know if I actually bought all the stuff that goes with turkey. I mean, we've got green beans, we've got broccoli. I could finally harvest my Brussels sprouts in the garden outside, which I might do, because that sounds like a better side dish than anything else. I don't know if I have cranberry sauce. I'm going to have to go check my pantry. Mostly because I don't think I'm going to make a super trip into the store to get sides. So whatever sides I don't have, it's just going to sort of be whatever. Because we're supposed to get bad weather this week. Along with Thanksgiving, we're supposed to be getting rain and then snow and then an Arctic blast, which I think, looking at the weather maps, is going to affect pretty much everybody in the United States. So everybody brace for cold, boo hiss. And I think it's supposed to come with a lot of thunderstorms and potentially bad weather in the south and the potential for blizzards up here where I live. Ew. Doesn't sound like fun. Hopefully our power stays on. I mean, hopefully they're wrong. But none of that has anything to do with what is going on in the book. So, as always, we're going to read one, perhaps two chapters of Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. And we are beginning with chapter 23, which is titled In Which Passepartout's Nose Becomes Outrageously Long. Sounds like Passepartout is going to be lying. The next morning, poor, jaded, famished Passepartout said to himself that he must get something to eat at all hazards, and the sooner the better. He might indeed sell his watch, but he would rather have starved first. Now or never, he must use the strong, if not melodious voice that nature had bestowed upon him. He knew several French and English songs, and he resolved to try them upon the Japanese, who must be lovers of music, since they were forever pounding on their cymbals, their tam-tams and tambourines, so of course they would appreciate his European talent. It was perhaps rather early in the morning to get up to a concert, and the audience, prematurely aroused from their slumbers, might not possibly pay their entertainer with a coin. Passepartout therefore decided to wait for several hours, and as he was sauntering along, it occurred to him that he would seem rather far too well dressed for a wandering artist. The idea struck him to change his garments for clothes more in harmony with his project, by which he might also get a little money to satisfy the immediate cravings of his hunger. This resolution taken, all he had to do was carry it out. It was only after a long search that Passepartout discovered a native dealer in old clothes to whom he applied for an exchange. The man liked his European costume, and before too long, Passepartout issued forth from the shop wearing an old Japanese coat and a sort of one-sided turban that was faded with long use. A few small pieces of silver even jingled in his pocket. Ah, très bien, he thought. I will imagine I am at the carnival. His first care, after being dressed, was to enter a tea house of modest appearance, and upon half a bird and a little rice, he breakfasted like a man for whom dinner was yet a problem to be solved. Now, he thought when he had eaten heartily, I must not lose my head. I cannot sell this costume again for one still more native. I must consider how to leave this country of the sun, of which I shall not retain the most delightful memories, as quickly as I can. It therefore occurred to him to visit the steamers which were about to leave for America. He would offer himself as a cook or a servant in payment of his passage and meals. Once in San Francisco, he would find some means of going on. The difficulty was how to traverse the 4,700 miles of the Pacific which lay between Japan and the New World. Passepartout was not the man to let an idea go a-begging, so he directed his steps towards the docks. But as he approached them, his project, which at first did seem so simple, began to grow more and more formidable in his mind. What need would they have of a cook or a servant on an American steamer, and what confidence would they put in him dressed the way he was? What references could he give? As he was reflecting on this, his eyes fell upon an immense placard which a sort of clown was carrying through the streets. This placard, which fortunately was in English, read as follows: Acrobatic Japanese Troupe, Honorable William Batlaker, Proprietor. Last representations prior to their departure for the United States of the Long Noses, under the direct patronage of the god Tingu, the great attraction. The United States? Said Passepartout. That is exactly what I want. He followed the clown, and soon found himself once more in the Japanese quarter. 15 minutes later, he stopped before a large cabin adorned with several clusters of steamers, the exterior walls of which were designed to represent in violent colors and without any perspective a company of jugglers. This was the Honorable William Batlacour's establishment. This gentleman was a sort of Barnum, the director of a troupe of mountebanks, jugglers, clowns, acrobats, equilibrists, and gymnasts, who, according to the placard, was giving his last performances before leaving the Empire of the Sun for the States of the Union. Passepartout entered, and he asked for Mr. Batlacour, who immediately appeared in person. "What do you want?" he said to Passepartout, who at first he took for a native. "Would you care for a servant, sir?" said Passepartout. "A servant?" cried the man, caressing the thick gray beard which hung from his chin. "I already have two, who are obedient and faithful and have never left me, and they serve me for their nourishment. Here they are," he said, holding out his two muscled arms, furrowed with veins as large as the strings of a bass violin. "So I can be of no use to you, sir?" "No." "Ah, the devil! I would love to cross the Pacific with you." "Aha," said the Honorable Mr. Batkiller. "You're no more Japanese than I'm a monkey. Why are you dressed up like that?" "A man dresses the way he can." "True. You're a Frenchman, aren't you?" "Oui, monsieur. A Parisian of Paris." "Then you ought to know how to make grimaces." "Why?" said Passepartout, a little vexed that his nationality should have caused this question. "We Frenchmen, we know how to make grimaces, it is true, but not any better than the Americans do." "That's true. Well, if I can't take you as a servant, I can take you as a clown. You see, my friend, in France they exhibit foreign clowns, and in foreign lands we exhibit French clowns." Aha! Are you pretty strong? I am strong after a good meal. Can you sing? Oui, said Passepartout, who had been formerly wont to sing in the streets. But can you sing standing on your head, with a top spinning on your left foot and a saber balanced on your right? I would sing so, said Passepartout, remembering the exercises of his younger years. All right, that's enough, said the Honorable William Batcaller. And the engagement was concluded there and then. Passepartout had at last found something to do. He was engaged to act at the celebrated Japanese troupe. It was not a very dignified position, but within a week he would be on his way to San Francisco. The performance, so noisily announced by the Honorable Mr. Batcular, was to commence at 3 o'clock, and soon the deafening instruments of an orchestra resounded at the door. Passepartout, though he had not been able to study or rehearse a part, was designated to lend the aid of his sturdy shoulders at the great exhibition of the human pyramid, which was executed by the long noses of the god Tingu. This great attraction was to be the close of the performance. Before 3 o'clock, the large shed was invaded by the spectators, comprising both Europeans and native Japanese. There were also Chinese and Japanese men, women, and children who precipitated themselves upon the narrow benches and up into the boxes opposite the stage. The musicians took up a position inside and were vigorously performing on their gongs, tam-tams, flutes, bones, tambourines, and their huge drums. The performance was much like all acrobatic displays, but it must be confessed that the Japanese people are the finest equilibrists in the entire world. One of them, with a fan and some bits of paper, performed the graceful trick of the butterflies and flowers. Another traced in the air, with the smoke of his pipe, a series of blue words which comprised a compliment to the audience, whilst a third juggled with some lit candles, which he extinguished successively as they passed his lips, and relit again without interrupting for even a moment his juggling. Another one reproduced the most singular combinations with a spinning top in his hands. The revolving tops seemed to be animated with a life of their own. In their whirling, they ran over pipe stems, the edges of sabers, wires, and even hairs that were stretched on the stage. They turned around on the edges of large glasses, they crossed bamboo ladders, and they dispersed into all of the corners and produced strange musical effects by the combination of their tones. The jugglers tossed them into the air, threw them like shuttlecocks with little wooden battledores, and yet they kept on spinning when they put them in their pockets and took them out, still whirling the same as they had been. It's useless to describe the astonishing performances of the acrobats and the gymnasts. The turning on ladders, poles, balls, barrels, etc., was executed with wonderful precision. But the principal attraction was the exhibition of the long noses, a show to which Europe is still a stranger. The long noses perform a peculiar company under the direct patronage of the god Tingu. Dressed in the fashion of the Middle Ages, they bear upon their shoulders a splendid pair of wings, but what especially distinguished them were the long noses which were fastened on their faces and the uses that they made of them. These noses were made of bamboo and were 5, 6, and even 10 feet long, some straight, others curved, some ribboned, and some having imitation warts upon them. It was upon these appendages, fixed tightly upon their real noses, that they performed their gymnastics exercises. A dozen of these secretaries of Tingu lay flat on their backs, while others, dressed to represent lightning rods, came and frolicked on their noses, jumping from one to the other, and performing the most skillful leapings and somersaults. As a last scene, a human pyramid had been announced in which 50 long noses were to represent the car of Juggernaut. But instead of forming a pyramid by mounting each other's shoulders, the artists were to group themselves on top of the noses. It happened that the performer, who had before now formed the base of the car, had quit the troupe, and as to fill his part, only strength and adroitness were necessary. Passepartout had been chosen to take his place. Poor Passepartout really felt sad when, melancholy, melancholily remembering his youth, he donned his costume, adorned with vari-colored wings, and fastened onto his natural feature a false nose that was 6 feet long. But he cheered up when he thought that this nose was winning him something to eat, at least. He went upon the stage and took his place beside the rest who were to compose the base of the car of the Juggernaut. They all stretched themselves upon the floor, their noses pointing to the ceiling. A second group of artists disposed themselves on these long appendages, and then a third above them, and then a fourth, until a human monument reaching the very cornices of the theater soon arose on the tops of the noses. This elicited loud applause, in the midst of which the orchestra was just striking up a deafening air when the pyramid tottered. The balance was lost. One of the lower noses vanished from the pyramid, and the human monument was shattered like a castle built of cards. It was Passepartout's fault. Abandoning his position, clearing the floodlights without the aid of his wings, and clambering up into the right-hand gallery, he fell at the feet of one of the spectators, crying, "Ah, my master, my master!" "You here?" "Oui, monsieur." "Ah, very well. Then let us go to the steamer, young man." And so Mr. Fogg, Aouda, and Passepartout passed through the lobby of the theater to the outside, where they encountered the Honorable Mr. Batkiller, furious with rage. He demanded damages for the breakage of the pyramid, and Phileas Fogg appeased him by giving him a handful of money. At 6:30, the very hour of departure, Mr. Fogg and Aouda, followed by Passepartout, who in his hurry had kept his wings and his 6-foot-long nose, stepped upon the American steamer. And that is the end of the chapter. And that was kind of ridiculous. I'm not going to lie. That was kind of ridiculous. I don't know how. I'm hoping that the next chapter will tell us, the next chapter is titled "During Which Mr. Fogg and the Party Crossed the Pacific Ocean." I don't remember Fogg and Aouda going to see a play, a performance, but what do they call that? Chekhov's hammer? Red herring? No, red herring is to distract you. Chekhov's hammer. I don't know. That was the biggest coincidence I have ever heard of in a book, that they would just all meet each other there, but I guess it moves the plot forward. Wow. Okay. Well, I think that's where we're going to leave it tonight, because I'm noticing my voice breaking. If you've been wondering why I haven't been uploading as much, it's because I cannot shake this cold. And it would be pointless to test now, but I'm almost wondering if I should have tested to find out if I had COVID, because whatever it is I've gotten is just lingering. Either that or it's just the cold that never ends. But I'm going to go drink some warm tea, hopefully rest my voice, so I can read another chapter for tomorrow. I want you all to have a fantastic night. Please do hit the thumbs up on your way out, and I will see you tomorrow.